I have to say, I was really grateful for the time that some of these Haitian community leaders took today. We spent about an hour together hearing each of their stories. One of the things that struck me most that we missed in the national narrative is how many of these migrants actually left their kids, as in their kids are still in Haiti who they haven't seen for a matter of years. And I don't care whether you're on the left or the right. I'm a father of two sons. That's a painful story to hear. And one of the questions I asked them is the four individuals I met with were people with impressive and daunting stories and who have made, who have worked hard to make contributions after coming here. But I shared with them the open question to me is how representative that really is of the broader experience of Haitian migrants to not only Springfield, but mass migration to the United States. I invited them to come tonight. I hope they do. They didn't commit to coming, but they said that they would consider it after what I think was a very positive and constructive conversation that we had. I'm headed back up to meet with several city officials, continuing to having come here learn as much as I can about what's actually happening on the ground. I'm a deep skeptic of swallowing media narratives, and part of my reason for being here was to see for myself and talk to different members of the community to really understand not only what's happening, but what we can actually do to address it. And so I will certainly at the start of the town hall tonight share some of my perspectives on what I do think is a path forward here. But my goal isn't to preach to the community. My goal is to actually share my perspective as honestly as I can, but also to hear from hopefully hundreds of people who will be attending the event tonight. So I'll take a couple of questions and then we'll see the rest of you at the event.
What do you hope to accomplish by your visit here today?
I hope to achieve unity in a sense of solidarity in the community, not because everyone's going to agree on everything. That doesn't happen in America. It never has. It never will. But I do think that people long to be heard. And I do sense that there is a 360 degrees around the table in this community, a sense that the voices of ordinary people aren't being heard, but the voices of the narratives imposed on their experience is being heard. And so my goal tonight is, number one, to give people in this community a sense of actually being heard. Number two is actually to hear them. And number three is to think about positive, constructive paths forward. I think a lot of people are angry. I think a lot of people are angry for understandable reasons. But I think that one of the best ways that we achieve peace in our country is actually through open dialogue. That's a core conviction of mine. I think the path to peace in America runs through free speech and even open dialogue and even debate. And I hope we'll have some of that tonight. That's the goal of my visit.
Do you think that the president?
That you're here, or the mayor has talked about?
He seemed very. I mean, you should ask him. But I will tell you, he certainly expressed gratitude for our approach to this visit, and I think we've had constructive conversations already, and I'm going to go up for one more set of meetings that we've arranged.
Do you think
that eating pets are false?
So I'm going to say this at the start of the event tonight. I'm not here to talk about the issues that the media has really loved to obsess over, okay? Cats and dogs, we're not talking about that tonight. We're talking about human beings, actually. We're talking about human beings who have been affected in this community and what we can do to help those human beings. I'm also going to share with, I was going to mention it tonight, but I'll say a word about it now. I posted on Saturday evening when I felt moved to come here. We didn't have any plan or arrangement, but I said I want to go to Springfield, and then this event was built around that. I will tell you that one of my goals was also to be helpful in this visit. The mayor and other city officials have asked for help in the community. I'm not in public office, but I have lived the American dream, and I expressed a desire to want to make a charitable contribution to an organization that was helpful in addressing some of the most pressing issues on the ground. I've talked to state officials across the state, talked to city leaders in the last several days. I spoke to Governor DeWine. One of the things I learned is that primary care and the strain on the primary health care system has actually been one of the most difficult issues this city is actually facing. Turns out I've tried to figure out who was actually doing good work in that regard, and it was one local C3 that we identified, to which I offered certainly a member of my team offered a major six-figure donation that our family wanted to help support. And one of the issues we ran into, to my shock, was that for whatever reason they were unwilling to accept that. And it was just another example. For a moment was rather annoyed and upset about that, but it again made me curious about the ways in which it's not a left-wing or right-wing issue, but often bureaucracy just gets in the way of doing what's right for a community as well.
Do you think that President
was
Trump
not.
should come here? Do you think that President Trump should come here?
I think more open dialogue is actually going to be good and conciliatory for this community and our country in the long run. So that's uncomfortable at times. But we had a great experience just for an hour with the Haitian leaders who gathered. I will be honest, at the beginning of the meeting, we had, I would call it a slower start, a cautious start to the meeting. But by the end of it, we were all speaking very candidly to one another. And, I shared my perspective. I asked them point blank, right? One of my favored immigration policies is that if you're going to be reliant on the welfare state or government assistance, and that's likely to be the case if you're entering this country, you should not be permitted to enter this country. And I asked them, what is your perspective on that? And actually, one of the things that surprised me, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but one of the things that surprised me was that everyone in that room agreed with me on that. That was something that wouldn't have happened if we didn't actually have what I thought was a raw discussion with each other, that we emerged with an agreement that I didn't expect. And so to the extent that my visit here and President Trump's visit here and really any other public figure who's earnestly interested in addressing these problems visits here opens up the kind of dialogue that we're not able to have in this country, yes, I do think that's going to be a good thing in moving us forward.
What do you think the media is getting wrong in their coverage of Springfield? You're critical of the media.
Yeah, so my goal is not to just be critical of the media, but I was critical of media. So I think that there is a temptation, social media included, but traditional media included as well, to pick on some fringe aspect of a really important discussion. So when people are exchanging heated thoughts about an important subject affecting Americans, they're going to say things in a way that wasn't practiced, rehearsed, or tested through consultant vetting and filters. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's better that we make mistakes of saying maybe too much that's raw rather than self-censoring and saying too much. And I think the media in this particular case has latched on to some fringe elements of that discussion, right? Some side topics that really are not close to the most important issue here, and have used that to sweep under the rug actual real challenges created by not small, but mass migration to this community. I mean, you think about the census, I'm going to get it by round numbers, but give or take, 50,000 people. That's expanded by as much as 20,000 people of just Haitian migrants in a very short period of time. You have a poverty rate in this community that is about double the national average. You have rises in communicable diseases, at least reported rises even in diseases like HIV, tuberculosis, that are really concerning and straining healthcare resources. You have schools and social services that have been strained. That is real. That's not an issue that you could sweep under the rug just by focusing on airlifting some word that someone said and pretend like that's the real story, while actually failing to focus on the actual real story. And so that's one of my goals from this visit.
Did J.D. Vance and Donald Trump actually begin that?
Well, I will say this, is that this has been an issue in this community, the issues I just talked about, the strain on social services, rise in communicable diseases, the lack of integration of people who came to this community, to a community that was not prepared to integrate them, could not have been expected to be prepared to integrate them as a consequence of federal policies that nobody was talking about for a really long time. And in the last 2 weeks, we are talking about them. Maybe not in exactly the way that will help solve the problem yet, but I hope that now this will move us to a stage in the dialogue where we will get actual constructive solutions, including those that came out of my discussion with the Haitian community leaders earlier. I'm headed back up to talk to the city officials now. I'd love to hear other ways that people like myself can actually be helpful in addressing problems that aren't actually being addressed. And I hope that the discussion that we have tonight, I have no idea how this is going to go. I've heard all kinds of things about the kinds of RSVPs we've been getting and what expectations we can have. But I hope we get people who share diverse ranges of views that are just interested in having a respectful, courteous, open, honest dialogue. And if we do, then I'm confident that is going to be a step forward in reaching the right solutions. And I'm here to play my part in doing it the way that I think is going to be best, not just for this community, but for our country. And the last thing I'll say, I'll take one last question, and then I'll head up.
Accusations of Haitians eating pets is what started all of this.
and there are many, many Haitians who are fearful for their lives. What is your message to them? And should Donald Trump and J.D. Vance stop talking about that?
I
Because
just
they're
think there's,
still using.
look, with due respect, I think the core issue is the strain on this community from the effects of mass migration, and that's true in cities across this country. But you asked for my message to Haitians, and if I may add, to non-Haitians alike in Springfield. Of the 70,000 people who are in this community, and by the way, it's a community that's near and dear to my heart. It's not random that I'm here. I spent a lot of time here as a kid. I live less than an hour away. I grew up about an hour away. So this is near and dear to me as well. To the people who live here right now, I think that the struggles this community is facing is not the fault of the 70,000 people who are here. That includes the people who are native born here. That include the Haitian migrants who are here. I'm firm in my conviction on that. I'm also equally firm in my conviction that it is the fault of failed federal policies that I believe are callous to cities like Springfield across the country, and we have an obligation to fix those federal policies without sweeping these issues under the rug. And I think that's what makes it particularly important to discuss ahead of the presidential election.